Did you have any like complete survival jobs before you made it in acting?
Yeah.
Like, how were you hustling?
I did a lot of everything. Market research is a big one, I think, for actors.
Yeah.
Any sort of promo jobs. So this was like, I'm one of the forging figures of the vape pen.
Really?
When you really think about it, yeah.
Okay.
It's one of my proud achievements. So I would get driven around to hotels on the outskirts of big cities and get people to sign all these contractual forms and put them in a windowless room, and they would smoke vape pens for an hour, and I would get the data back to the bigwigs.
So just so you know, you were running those when I would go in and do those market research for $50.
Yeah.
And I see products that come out for like, American companies like Domino's and, all these different like soda companies. I was like, I was the one giving the feedback. And I was like, y'all need to make this can purple or no one's going to buy. Like I would get $50 cash. Yeah. You'd sign your life away. You were in a windowless room, but it actually had a two-way mirror.
Exactly.
And I used to give feedback and I knew I would crush it. Because I knew I would give them what they wanted, but I was also like very professional. Yeah. And I made a killing doing those.
An absolute killing. I actually quite enjoyed it, and it's great. I think you learn great skills doing it.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, you really do. And I also sold shots, which I made an absolute fortune from.
Wait, you sold shots?
Like a shot girl.
Oh, shot girl. Yeah. Bottle service. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be like Cherry Vulcan. I'd be like, it's very cherry and I'm from Derry. Whole tray gone.
My first job here was at the biggest Irish sports bar called Stout. It's across from Madison Square Garden.
God love you.
And I had to wear tights and the short skirt, and I had to carry just trays of beers. And it was like whatever was playing at Madison Square Garden, that's who we were, our clientele was. So if like it was a Metallica concert, it was Metallica that night. Like you never knew who your clientele was going to be, and that was probably the greatest job of my life
that you've ever had.
I made so much fucking money.
Anyone's lucky to be employed to employ you. Have you ever been fired?
I've never actually been fired. I was a nanny once for a very wealthy family in LA, and they just quit calling, but I've never been fired to my face. Yeah. But
maybe they were jealous that their kids loved you more than them.
The kids absolutely bullied me. When I say like absolutely fucking bullied me, still working through it. Tormented me. And you know what? I found these kids on TikTok recently. Yeah, the girls are grown now, and I found them on TikTok, and I'm like, I could fuck you up, and I'm not going to.
You're not going to be the whistleblower?
I'm not going to be the whistleblower. I will not. No.
I hate to admit, because it's the only time really that I have ever been fired, but I have been fired.
Let's talk about it.
I was working in a restaurant in Canary Wharf. Really got on well with everybody I worked. It was like sort of like an indoor, outdoor restaurant because it barely rains in London, which was a revelation to me. And obviously it's London, sometimes you would get mice. I had an audition.
Fuck no.
I know, it's quite common. Mice everywhere. And I had an audition that morning for The Exorcist, which I put a lot of work into.
Yeah.
And I got into the room and the director was reading on his tablet and not looking at me. I was devastated. I rushed back to work, and my manager was really annoyed that I was slightly late. She gave me a hard time for it.
Yeah.
And then we were getting near to the end of the shift, and there was a group of ladies all sat having their desserts together. So they've already ate the first 2 courses of their meal.
Right.
They've had a lot of wine. They've had a good time. It's been great. Don't focus on the negative.
Right.
And all of a sudden they start screaming, and they're like, oh my God, there's mice everywhere. And I come over and I was like, oh, I'm really, really sorry about that. You know what happens? Because there's no doors.
Right.
We can't stop it. And they're like, can you go and get your manager, please? And I was like, yeah, I can go get my manager, but there's nothing that we're going to be able to do about it. And she was like, it's an absolute disgrace. It's really putting me off my dessert. And I was like, well, I can discount your dessert. And then she was like, you have to do something about these mice. I was like, what do you expect me to do about it? Pick them up in my bare hands? And then I come into work the next day. You used to get like an extra £50 if you had a good comment on TripAdvisor.
Yeah. Oh,
so my manager sits me down and she's like, Saoirse, we've had a TripAdvisor about you. And I was like, happy days. I'm delighted. I could be doing with the money.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'll just read it out to you. And the comment, they wrote it in my accent. The comment went like this. Last night I was served by an aggressive Irish young woman. When I complained about the mice, she said, what do ye expect me to do about it? Pick it up with me bare hands. Cheeky bitch.
Literally. And please tell me you've printed that out and framed it and it's hanging as soon as you walk in your office.
Should have done it.
You have to. Anytime I get like a negative Reddit comment or somebody says something psycho, like a crazy DM, I print it out and I frame that shit. It makes me giggle, like deep giggle. It's probably also like a psychotic thing to do, but I love it. If someone's like, you know what I mean? She looks like she's put on 20. I'm like, print it out. Tina, print it. You know, I don't know why. I'm just like a glutton for punishment. So interesting enough, I feel like we've really lived parallel lives, except you're having a lot more success than I am right now. So Tina and I worked at this place after our job at the Irish Sports Bar. We worked at this place called Sticchino's. It was on about 4 blocks to the west.
Sounds spicy.
Yeah. It was a horribly run Italian spot, and we had the same thing. I opened the drawer at the front, and then we always got the pre-theater rush. When I say a rat the size of this fucking coffee table, you know, mice are different.
No, rats are not.
Rats have teeth. They have cell phones. They smoke cigarettes.
And you can die instantly with their urine.
Yeah, literally. And also, like, the plague, you're sure that the camera talks about it.
I didn't even make that connection.
There was a rat that jumped out. He looked at me and he was like, I'm going to fuck up your life. He jumped out. I was on the table. I was screaming. I was like, fuck this. My manager's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I'm not getting my ankles bit. I'm not doing this shit. I'm not gonna die today. And we lost it. It was scurried somewhere like down the stairs. It was in my friend's pants. It was this whole fucking thing. And I had to finish the shift.
But why are they still here? Like, are they beneficial to like the circle of life? You know, the way everything sort of serves its purpose. What is the rat's purpose?
We don't know actually. And the mayor has, I don't know if you know this little bit of tea, but the mayor of New York has hired a rat czar. And when I tell you this is a fierce power lesbian, right? I mean, if you're gonna get anybody to kill the rats, you're gonna get a power lesbian, you know, and
100%.
like in a life vest, you know, ripping a vape, just like you could
take the rat to counseling.
Yeah, exactly.
For the harm it's done.
Just drive up with a U-Haul, throw them all in the back of the van, and be like, "You're coming home with me." They have not been able to figure out the rat situation on how to extinguish the vermin, but I guess what they're gonna try and do is now because you know all the trash in New York is just sitting on the curb. Yeah. Now, who's the mayor? Eric Andre. Not Eric Andre. He's a stand-up. Eric Adams. Eric Adams is now, he's put in place trash cans. So now apparently.
Revelation.
Yeah, I know. Like, wow.
God, you are forward thinking over here.
When I lived on the east side, on even days, I would not walk on the sidewalks. I would just walk down the middle of the street.
Particularly on even days?
On even days, because
you definitely have Irish heritage.
I sure do.
Yeah. Suspicious.
Don't
fuck.
Yeah, won't fuck around with it. Yeah. I mean, you know, once you have a rat, you're stuck in a subway car with a rat. You just never bounce back.
Yeah.